Want to go ahead and get started, or we want to give Council Member, Vice Mayor Jordan, Vice Mayor Jordan a minute or two.
Let's give him a minute or two.
I want to see the terrace.
Me too.
Quite sure what it is. Oh,
There's the terrace.
cute.
Say hi.
Oh, kitty.
Is this a new permanent resident of the mayor's house?
My daughter invited her into our home, so yeah, she's here to stay, but she's running, tearing up everything, but yeah. Yeah.
Nice. I know that feeling well. There's been several council meetings where there's something zipping around behind me.
Absolutely. And I think we're recorded, so I think we better switch gears here. Good afternoon, Vice Mayor Jordan. How you doing? We'll go ahead and get started. And can you go ahead and give us a roll call as we begin our 3 o'clock special meeting?
Councilmember McQuaid,
Here.
Councilmember Nason,
Here.
Councilmember Tiedemann,
Here.
Vice Mayor Jordan,
Here.
and Mayor Gary.
Here. Thank you so much, Ann. So let's move down to line item number 2, which is our study session. We'll go ahead and get a report from staff.
Thank you, Mayor. I will keep this concise as this is a continuation of your item from your last meeting, as you made great progress through Goal 1, and you will see that staff has attempted to reflect that in this working draft. So we would absolutely appreciate any additional direction or clarification on anything we missed or included by mistake. And then looking forward to diving into the remaining goals. And ideally, if the timing works out, sending the council a final draft for review and approval at your next meeting on July 19th.
All right, thank you so much, City Manager. So let's go ahead and dive right in. I haven't, Councilmember Tiedemann and I have not worked on the mission statement, and Councilmember McQuaid and I haven't worked on the vision statement. So we'll go ahead and maybe hold off until next week or so and get that to you, but we'll go ahead and move into the strategic plan. One thing I did want to interject, or at least make a suggestion. I think that right after our vision statement, I think we should have like the city core values that consist of, integrity, accountability, collaboration, community service. I see we have the core services, but I think it would add an extra, added value just to let people know what our values are. So think about it. We don't necessarily have to do the 4 that I stated, but just something to think about, and then we can decide whether or not we want to implement that as well. All right, so we'll go ahead and start with, we left out at goal 1. And let me pull that up. So is there anything on the goal under objective 1 that we want to remove? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember McQuaid.
I think I'm a little behind and a little ahead, so I'll just start talking. When you were talking about the vision statement, I wonder if I have a date, or at least a projected date of when would you like, because you and I are working together, when would you like me to at least send you something? Middle of next week? Is that kind of what you're looking at?
Hold on one second.
Or
you know what? Why don't I email you after the meeting? I'll probably be later on tonight after the mayor's conference, and then I can let you know what sounds good.
That's fine.
Okay.
I just don't want anybody waiting on me.
Okay.
I haven't done anything.
All right. So back to our objective 1. I know the city staff has added some of the things that we stated. I was wondering if anyone wants to remove or add any additional. I'll start with Councilmember McQuaid.
Thank you. I'm not sure these are reflective of what staff did. I was a little bit confused at the end. And so on objective 1, number 1, establish ordinance with electric preferred. It seems to me there should be a word after electric. Electric what? I don't think, it's clear to me what we're looking for. I'm not sure it's clear to the general public. And also on that one, number 4, I wonder if we want to cross-reference that to the, or make a reference to the public space recreation or the pros committee. It's kind of a crossover into open space. So I think there should be perhaps some language that does that, because as we go along, we start having some crossovers. And I think it's good to have them all in there.
Okay, thank you.
I,
Anyone else? Oh, go ahead, Councilmember Nason.
no, I think Vice Mayor Jordan is next.
Oh, okay, but go ahead, Vice Mayor Jordan, I'm sorry.
Thank you. That's all right. Yeah, I have maybe more of an overarching question that there are items that are included in the version that staff kindly provided that we didn't discuss last time that were carried over from the prior strategic plan. And I was unclear in my mind, the fact that we didn't discuss them indicated that we were not going to carry those forward. But I realize that's something that we didn't explicitly make a decision on. I would
Right.
offer, if the way it is now, goal 1 has 20 different items in it. And that's what I would consider almost our entire budget. So I think we need to reach clarification on that before we continue.
I understand. And so that's the question. Do we want to remove, replace? I mean, I'm looking to you to kind of throw in some suggestions.
Yes, I can show, I mean, if you will, I can show my screen so we can easily see which ones were carried over that we didn't discuss and which
That'd be
ones we did discuss.
Okay,
To kind of continue that facilitative role and do it in a more organized fashion, because I wasn't really prepared for that role last time.
that's fine.
So what we have here is the items that are in black type are the ones that we specifically discussed affirmatively and said we want these in the plan. The red ones in red type are ones that we did not discuss, but are carried over from the previous plan and the version that we have. And so really the question is, and I don't know if we can make a global decision, if it was implied last time, or if we need to go through them one at a time and say we don't want them in.
So we didn't get to that portion of it, like you stated. We can, make a global decision. But first, let me just go around. We'll start with Councilmember Nason. Is there anything that you would want to see kept out of the red items? And I'll just go around the room and we can just figure out what we want and what we don't want.
Okay, I just as I look at this, I didn't review our discussion just before jumping on, and I probably should have.
Okay.
I wanted to be sure that we have staff buy-in when we're declaring new programs. I don't want to put something in the strategic plan that the staff feels may not be doable, or it may be that we kind of circle back at the end and they say whether we've got too much. But I would like to hear from the staff about, well, first I'd like to suggest a tiny tweak to item 1 in response to what I think Councilmember McQuaid said, which was establish ordinance with electric preferred for major remodel projects. I would suggest that we change that with electrification preferred to natural gas for major remodel projects, which people, so that the people reading it will understand what we're getting at there. The one that I wanted to hear staff comment on was actually 2 of them, items 2 and 3. Is item 2 is doing a pilot program for electrification of existing buildings. Something that is that a realistic objective for us in addition to the ordinance?
Yeah, I thank you, Councilmember Nason. I appreciate the question. On one overall to goal 1 is, I appreciate Vice Mayor Jordan's comments that are currently with the carry forward items. There's too many items for functionality purposes. So we would certainly appreciate whittling it down as you are. With regard to item 2 specifically, given that it's a pilot program, that means we're trying something out in my perspective. And I think that works very well. We've done that with several things, greening initiatives in the past 10 to 15 years. And it gives us a lot of data and analysis to tweak and determine what might be most effective for Albany and really the region. I know Vice Mayor Jordan has had some engagement with Stop Waste already on opportunities and other local nonprofits, so he may have more to add. Basic answer is we'd be happy to look into this further and give the council options to consider along with funding opportunities. For item 3, this one we've had around for quite some time, as folks may recall, several years in the making now with questions here and there. Again, this is certainly something we can consider and provide language to the council for a study session and public hearing. The issue here that's come up a few times in the past, one will be a question about enforcement. And there are a couple of things that go into enforcement. It would be complaint driven, and sometimes that causes frustration that it isn't potentially as responsive or proactive as some may want. And also it can have some equity issues involved with it too, in terms of people that may be doing landscaping work, not understanding these requirements, and us needing to work through some things in a very thoughtful, considerate way. I hope that helps.
Thank you so much, City Manager.
Thank you. With that said, I'm certainly comfortable leaving it in. We should, at a minimum, phase out our own 2-stroke engines. I think we do still have people doing landscaping with them. But I would think that we could educate people through a permit process, and complaint driven isn't the worst thing in the world. If someone is hearing this outside and they call the police non-emergency line and are told, okay, if we have someone available, we'll send them out, is better than hearing that's okay in Albany. You're allowed to do that in Albany. So I'm if others are comfortable with leaving it in, I am. I agree with Councilmember McQuaid's comment about the cross-referencing the urban forest master plan, because it involves many different values besides climate action. And for item 5, I would like to continue receiving implementation updates, although I'm not sure that's something that seems more like a core function than a strategic plan requirement, unless it's been falling down in the past and we want to emphasize it.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Nason. Councilmember Tiedemann, go ahead.
Yeah, I would agree on item 5, seems like a core responsibility type thing, but on the item number 3 on 2-stroke engines, you know, I think the point about it possibly being unenforceable still stands, and I'm not comfortable because in some of this discussion we've talked about it like, you know, there could be a complaint process, but it may be the police enforcing this if that's the case. I'm not very comfortable having the police enforce this sort of thing, because I think this is exactly the sort of thing that we should not be using armed police for. You know, in the conversations that I think we've all been listening to in the past year or so, it's been shown that having armed police perform jobs that they don't need to do increases the risk that something bad could happen. And sending them out on something like this, I think, is exactly the opposite of what we should be trying to do in general. So I'm not very comfortable if the solution here is have the police do it.
Well, the minimum would be that we would, that the Department of Public Works would stop using these. Is that something you'd be comfortable with? That would be an investment into.
That I'm fine with, but it seems like our discussion has focused a lot on a lot more than that and gone some other places.
Well, what the language that we have though is simply to advance this. We can look at different ways of advancing it, but I'm anxious not to drop this from our efforts, because it is a significant source of pollution, significant source of noise, a really terrible technology to have operating here.
And I think that works as long as we're clear of, you know, that the focus there for us is phasing out of our use, because especially I'm especially thinking a lot of the comments we've gotten are talking about this on a much broader scale than just us phasing out our use of these sorts of engines.
Right.
So I want to be very clear
Well,
about
but if there's
what
an
we're aiming for.
opportunity to do it, then I think that we should try to take advantage of the opportunity. You know, it's when Berkeley has done it. I don't think it's been a big problem. Yep.
Okay. All right, so I'll go ahead. And so right now we have item number 1, 2, 3, and 4. 5, we feel like that should be removed. Okay, Councilmember McQuaid, go ahead. I didn't see your hand. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. I want to go back to number 3 for just a minute. I would never want to say perhaps in a plan. I think Councilmember Tiedemann, I totally appreciate your perspective on this, and the last thing we want is sort of a Karen situation, if I can use that phrase, to be established or to ever happen. But I also understand that advancing the phase out is moving this forward. So I think we can leave it in there, perhaps. I just didn't like the word perhaps, because to me that's just, what does that mean? Perhaps it could say specifically with city use. And then as we're discussing this going forward, or having our climate action committee discuss it, they could be considering ways of implementation and enforcement. That does not necessarily include the police department. So I think it's fine leaving it in, just with the understanding that we're going to move it forward. We haven't made a decision today.
Yeah.
That sounds sensible to me.
And then on item 5, perhaps there's a place for like 5, and then down below item 4, implement the housing element. They get put into, and they're not core services, but they're kind of boxed as something we're doing. They're not part of our strategic plan. They need to happen. So they go in a separate category.
The housing element is in core services. The language isn't quite implement, but it is updating it, which is what the status reports on here. So that seems like something that is represented in core services at the moment.
I apologize. I found when I'm sharing my screen, I don't appear to have access to the raise hand, any of the reaction feature.
Oh, I apologize. Go ahead.
So I'll go ahead and do this.
Yep.
Just to frame this maybe more generally, I would suggest that we have a conversation, hopefully short, on how many items we want to be in the strategic plan. What is our budget? Because I think that is going to help us to decide whether to have things in or out.
And
the
I
last strategic plan had 50 items. I think that's too many. I would propose 25.
Well, what I really would like us to do also in conjunction with that is, make sure that one, the goal can be attainable within the time frame, what's priority. And then, like you said, yes, let's include our budget too. So if the items that are in the red is something that's, going to take outside of the year, then let's just remove it, right? And then revisit it next year. But I think right now, like you said, the focus should be how many items, what's prioritized, and what's attainable for staff to do without overloading them as well. So we have right now, you have 4 with a possible 1. Item 5, we're still trying to figure out where we want to put that unless we've agreed to put it in another category. Yes?
Mayor, may I add
Go ahead.
quickly, the items in red, all of them are things that staff departments are already doing and tasked with doing as part of their objectives and deliverables. Having those in a strategic plan, while it would restate the importance of them, I don't think it gives much more effect given that they're already underway. Some of them are outside of the 2-year period, like the Saha project, just because of what it is. So I would encourage the items that are new to your strategic plan actually move the city forward at the council policy level very well.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would suggest that a lot of the red items, to Councilmember McQuaid's observation, they're kind of reporting and monitoring. So I think it would be possible for the city manager to create a list of kind of the items that are reporting and monitoring as a separate, maybe in a separate document or a separate section of this document. And then we might want to consider, do we want to get all these reports and monitoring efforts, because those do cost money. But I don't think having the strategic plan is the place for that. So we could potentially handle it that way.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that a lot of these things belong in the core core.
Okay, well, then I'm going to propose I do kind of a lightning round because we're already 20 minutes in.
Right.
I'm just going to highlight one and say, can I delete it?
That would
can
be
I delete this?
Yes. If
Okay, I'm
everybody,
going to delete that. All right, it's gone. You're going to see the count is going to update as we go.
okay.
We'll see how well we're doing. I'm going to delete implement housing element. Yes?
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Am I going to delete this one?
yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Monitor rent review. That's under the reporting.
Yeah, delete that.
This is under reporting. All right. We're doing well. Okay.
Identify additional funding source for affordable housing. Isn't that a core staff function?
But I don't think that's what we're doing right now. Aren't we just
Oh,
doing?
okay. We're just
We're
doing
just
that.
eliminating,
Okay,
right, we're just
okay.
getting rid of what we don't.
I'm not
need
done with
The
the
reds.
one yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So on this, I mean, this is not a reporting function, but it's essentially something that's happening by way of our CIP.
Mhm.
So I think our CIP is the appropriate place to be tracking that rather than our strategic plan.
I agree
I agree.
with that.
All right. This, we had a parking study done, and this is only a potential item anyway. And our parking study said we don't need to do parking management. So I'm recommending we delete that.
You know,
Yes.
I just want to say one thing, one sentence about
Sure.
parking.
Okay,
And at some point, as a city, we need to address parking.
I agree.
That's all I want to say. I don't want to talk about it right now.
Okay.
But I think we're starting to go down two very, very different tracks on parking, and we need to come to some agreement fairly soon.
I
So
agree.
we may want to leave something in here about that, but maybe we can.
Okay, it would
later.
probably be in a different category though.
Yeah, that's fine, but I just.
And it would be a new item. All right, so we got it down.
One sentence, it took forever.
And then review status of cannabis ordinance. I mean, it's done.
No.
Apparently, was done in the past. So
Been done.
what did I do there?
Looks like you've deleted everything to, and then if you want to go ahead.
Hold on a sec. Oh, I see what I did. I think try again. Can you still see the screen?
Yep, we can.
Okay, all right. So we're down
Now
to, that got it down to 13 items just for our very first goal. So I think we need to, if that's for aiming for 25, which is just my number, some people may have a different number, we're sort of halfway there with just one goal. Now we can keep going or we can try to get rid of some of these now.
I
So,
would,
Keep going and then come back when we have the detritus kind of cleared away. Then let's come back and that'll give us a better sense of what we have on our plate.
Okay,
yes, especially as there are some objectives that currently only have, one item. And as I pointed out last time, goal 1 has housing, sustainability, and transportation, which is a huge amount of things. So makes sense that it's more.
okay.
go ahead, Vice Mayor Jordan, if you want to scroll down.
Yeah, sure. So let's see. Oh, yeah. So this is goal 2. And what I have on the right is just my notes to myself as sort of what I'm pursuing. But what's on the left is what was handed to us. So we don't see any updates on that because we haven't talked about it before. But this is what exists currently. This is the status update here. And the ones that are in gray are the ones that are suggested as being completed or sunsetted. So I just wanted to show that. I'm going to go ahead and delete this one just to clean up the
I
screen.
would prefer.
Oh,
Wait, you're going too fast, Preston.
yeah, so hold on one sec. So Councilmember McQuaid, if you have a comment and then I'll go after you. Go ahead, please.
Well, I have 2 comments. First of all, I thought you were going to do all the reds for the whole 5 goals. And I have some thoughts about this use piece, so I don't want to delete it yet.
I agree.
So everything from here on out would be red because we haven't discussed any new items. We haven't gotten to this part of the strategic plan. So everything that's on the left here is essentially just a recycle from what was there before.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. But I'm not, then in that case, I'm not done with goal 1, but Mayor, I know you want to speak, so.
No, I just want to say, I agree with item 3. We do not need to delete that at this time. But if you want to go back up, let's go up. Let's finish goal 1. Let's try to get through these goals one at a time, and then we can start weeding out as we go through the goals. So goal 1, we have 13 items. And I guess the question should be to the city manager, is 13, is that too much, or what are we?
Thanks, Mayor. I like the approach of going through the whole document, seeing what you end up with, and then maybe circling back again. And I think as you see it populated in a final draft, you'll have another chance to
go back. Okay.
Things away. Yeah.
All right. So anything on goal 1 right now that we need to address, that someone needs to spotlight? If not, we'll go down to goal 2.
I've got a couple on goal 1.
All right, I didn't see your hand. Just you guys speak out, because I can't see your hand. Unless you're using the panelists, if you do that, I'll be able to see it, but I can't see you if you're putting it up in front of your face.
Oh, okay.
Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Boyd.
On objective 2, item 1, evaluate zoning policies such as considering measure D and K. I would like to see it a little bit broader than mentioning, and measure K is sort of a standalone to me, but I don't want to limit us only to what measure D says. So I would almost like to just say evaluate zoning policies.
Sounds good.
But isn't that a core, I guess it's not a core staff function, but it's sort of a core council function to, are we doing something other than approving and receiving items through the Planning and Zoning Committee? Is there something specific we're doing with this?
Again, since I can't raise my hand, I mean, my understanding of this is that the city council does not reevaluate zoning every 2 years. So it's putting it on the plate. And it may be that in putting it on the plate, then we then put it into planning and zoning's work plan from here. But it's not a core function that's required of councils in any given 2-year period.
Okay, and we don't really have a set of core functions for council. We have core for the city as a whole. Okay.
I would also say if we want to make this more directed, we could say something about what we want to achieve with these zoning policies, which I think for me, which I think this was my suggestion, or at least partly, that our goal is to increase housing or increase the availability and ease of development for housing.
As a facilitator, I'm just putting language up. I'm not voting, but just.
Right.
We say housing production.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other items?
Again, on number 3 there, take action to further reduce blight. I'd like to see that cross-reference to advanced economic development, which is, I don't know, goal 4, maybe somewhere down there. And then objective 4, two things occurred to me, and I may not have heard it at the last meeting. Item 1, it says adopt mandatory soft story ordinance. I don't recall that we talked about mandatory. I know that I believe there's something on our next agenda on this. I'm a little hesitant to box this totally into something. And then the last thing there on item 4, I would like somewhere in there the phrase full service acute care hospital. Because if we're not, that's the language that's being used. And if we're not specifying the same language all the time, it tends to get watered down. And I believe, Rochelle, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the phrase full service acute care.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, with that, if everyone's in agreement, we'll go to goal number 2, which is engage our diverse community. And so I would like to jump in on this. I think the work plan items, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Albany Cares is another reporting mechanism. I think when we want to talk about things, when we want to engage our community, that diverse community, what does that look like, right? You know, we want to make sure everyone feels included in this community. So something like replacing with, you know, community events, right? We're recognizing and bringing all cultures together. You know, that's more putting the community together. What would that look like? And how would we be able to obtain that? So those are just a few suggestions. I think that, you know, when we're trying to engage, there needs to be listening sessions. There needs to be an educational component to different cultures as we do this engagement, right? What does that look like? And how can we push that forward? I also, next page.
Mayor, if I could suggest, maybe we take the suggestions one at a time.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
So I think you had a suggestion that maybe this item 1 should be deleted as it's a reporting monitoring function.
Correct. And correct me if I'm wrong, if there's more to it that we really need to focus on with it being on our strategic plan.
Mayor, I think you're right on there. You know, this is a carryover from when this was a pilot program, and it's sort of just evolved over time within your strategic plan, and it's fairly static now and really a fast-moving program at the administrative level with staff, and you do get updates. So I don't think it needs to be at this level of your strategic planning documents.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So going once, going twice, on.
okay. Item number 2. It's the same.
I mean, this seems rather operationalized. Well, actually, no, this is outreach. Yeah, so on this one, our enrollment in the city of households with low incomes taking advantage of tax provisions has been static for years at about 70. So the marketing that the city started doing about 5 years ago did double the number, but it's still only about 10% or less of the households with low incomes. So, you know, my preference would be to set a goal. So rather than set the means of the goal, marketing is the means. Set the goal as our goal is to enroll as many households in our tax relief as are enrolled in CARE, which is the low income program for power, building power, you know, electricity and gas. Set some sort of numeric goal to drive the policy.
But if that's the case, I don't think it belongs into engaging with our diverse community. I mean, that has nothing to do with diversity and bringing the community together. So I would agree if we could put that somewhere else. I'm not sure where that would go, if you have some suggestions or anyone else have suggestions, but if we're focusing on diversity, I think that needs to be removed out of that section.
Yeah, so I guess I did reframe the objectives in my mind. So there was an objective to increase economic justice, an objective to increase social justice, and then another objective, continue to promote community inclusivity. There could be other objectives, you know, I don't know how to lay those out. It could be, you know, as you say, another objective is based on events and outreach. But to me, increasing economic and social justice is tightly connected with community diversity. And I think in that regard, I engage diverse community. I mean, I was more comfortable with maintaining increased community diversity. So it's not just the city engaging diversity, like diversity is out there in the world and it's not the city, but the city itself is diverse.
Right, but or maybe just promoting it, right? So how do we do that? And here are the items on how we promote and get the city involved. And there again, I just don't think the element of the Albany Care Center. I'm not saying if we agree that it needs to be on the strategic plan, that's fine. But as far as diversity and promoting that, I just don't think that's the place for it. And that's just my opinion. Again, if someone wants to chime in, that's fine.
I guess I see it as promoting economic diversity or class diversity. But I don't really care where it ends up as long as it's in the strategic plan somewhere.
You know,
Councilmember Nason, go ahead.
yeah, I'm a little uneasy with this. On the one hand, you know, yeah, it's something that is available and we want people to know about it. As citizens, they've got this right, they should do it. I don't think it advances social justice. It reinforces Prop 13, basically. I mean, these are a lot of this, especially the senior tax exemptions, but also low income exemptions that don't take wealth into account, that don't have a wealth threshold. These types of exemptions disproportionately benefit well-to-do people. And I'm reluctant to both the senior and even the low income, as odd as it sounds, these can be more beneficial to the wealthy than to the poor. I'd like to make it a core part of our communications to make people aware of these, but putting an emphasis on getting them used strikes me as potentially conflicting with our commitment to examine and fight systemic racism.
Is there any data that wealthier households utilize the low-income exemptions more than other households?
No, I'm assuming that they don't, and that we're trying to get them to do it.
Well, we're not trying to get wealthy households to utilize it. So I mean, I guess I'm looking at the whole state is based on an income thresholds for relief. So getting a reduction on your electricity and natural gas bills based on your income, free and reduced lunch program for the school is based on income. I'm not aware that we have any governmental program that is based on the totality of a household's wealth. I don't know how we would get at that. I do know that there's like 700 households that are enrolled in CARE to reduce the cost of natural gas and electricity, but there's only 70 households take advantage of Albany's provisions that are even worth more money than that. So there's a huge disconnect there. I mean, there's clearly a need and a desire, but there's some sort of barrier that's preventing utilization.
If we focused it on renters, I would be comfortable with that. I know that in at least one of these, we managed to put in a kind of renter rebate that the California apartment owners got put into the state legislation. But when you're talking about owners, you know, who already benefit from Prop 13, that we're trying to get them to take advantage of more benefits, it just feels strange to me. But I don't feel very strongly about this either way.
Right, and I think maybe, you know, we want to put it under a different objective. We can categorize it with rent and Albany Cares and seniors kind of beneficial on income levels, however we want to do it, tax base. But I just don't think this is the place it needs to be. And I think Councilmember Nason has stated her opinion as well. So if we can move it and put it in a section that's separate from this, or in a communication type of piece, I would be willing for us to move forward in that manner.
Well, now, can I substitute? Sorry, go ahead, Councilmember.
Councilmember, wait, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think, Mayor Gary, I kind of agree with you that you're on the right track, because for a strategic plan, you want to kind of be thinking, like in my mind anyway, we're thinking broadly. So I'm thinking if we could have a communication piece, so it's not only about the taxes and what might be available to people, but simply getting our message out for attending a meeting or attending music in the park or whatever the event is. We want to be sure that our entire community is receiving this information. It's not only about the taxes. So I think to broaden it to a communication strategy makes a little bit more sense.
Absolutely. Vice Mayor Jordan, I think you have something to say.
Yeah, well, no, I'm not sure. I was just going to suggest that I move this language over on the right to the left, but maybe we want to keep the language on the left. And I know this isn't where we want it to end up, but just to keep it in the list.
Okay, so if you can just move it to the side, and then let's focus on what we do want to see in this section and what will be priority. And so now item number 3.
Yeah, can we go back for, I'm sorry, for just a minute to the goal? What if we changed it to engage and empower our diverse community? Would that
Or
maybe?
I mean, again, maybe empower, not so much engage. I don't know. I'm kind of with Vice Mayor on the engaging. Like it just you know, or we can just do one word. We can call it you know, inclusiveness, and just where everyone is welcome and everything falls under that category. But like Vice Mayor said, I'm in agreement that engaging, I don't know, that word just doesn't fit right. But I'm open to how whatever works.
Okay.
So I'll engage for inclusivity.
Did you remove item number 3, Vice Mayor George?
Well, it was, I mean, so item number 3 is here, I can put it back, but that item number 3 is done.
No.
No,
Okay.
it's not done.
Oh, I thought that's what the gray meant in when staff colored something gray, I thought it meant it was done.
Well,
Because
so,
the subcommittee has been sunsetted.
but the work remains.
Okay.
And I just wanted to say that, yes, the subcommittee is done. But, you know, through the racial equity work that was done, I know that SEJC met with students and had good conversations, and we want to keep those dialogues going. And also, we are continuing to work with the Y Youth in Government to try to get a local government module in their youth in government program. So I think we want to leave somewhere in there about working with youth.
I agree. Okay.
And then I had another item, but again, would have fit under this, but I guess we'll end up somewhere else, which was reform, see it there, reform taxes and franchise fees to include exemptions, rebates, and discounts for households with low incomes and to scale costs for residence size. So this goes somewhat to what Councilmember Nason brought up, which is not all of our taxes have rebates for renters. Some have exemptions for seniors without a means test, which doesn't make much sense. Our taxes are typically the same amount per residence, rather than being scaled to residence size. So somebody who lives in a studio is paying the same amount as somebody who's in a 5-bedroom house.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilmember McQuaid.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Preston, I have a lot of angst about that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't that mean we would repeal all of our taxes and then resubmit them to the voters?
Well, no, I think the approach you would take is you put the tax on the ballot and say, if you pass this, then there's a new structure. If you don't, then we continue on with the structure we have. So you don't have to repeal. If the measure fails, then you just continue on the way you are.
So let's stay focused because time is of an essence. I know that Vice Mayor Jordan has to a meeting and I as well. So the goal is let's try to finish goal number 2 with the diversity. List a few items so we can kind of finalize that. We do have public comment, but I would like us to really dive in and figure out, you know, what does promoting or empowering diversity in our community would look like and how we can get it on the strategic plan moving forward. So, and then after that, after public comment, we can come back and then we can wrap it up and may have to do a part 2 if time permits, okay?
So having explained this item, are other council members amenable to moving it into the list or not?
No, that I just don't see where that goes in that particular one. Again, we may have to develop another category.
Okay, but
Yeah, I would say we want to have both of the ones you suggested, Preston, but I'm not sure where they go yet, so we should save them for later
Okay.
discussion. Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
so, yeah,
And we're not saying that they're not, I'm definitely, please don't take it that I'm not saying that they're not good suggestions. I just think they just don't go there. It's just
Okay.
somewhere to go, okay?
okay. Well, then in that case, I'm going to get rid of this because this is essentially the same as that for now. And work with youth. I mean, that's just what I wrote in. I think we need more specificity as like, what is the goal in the next 2 years?
Councilmember McQuay, you want to speak to this?
I'm thinking.
Oh, okay, okay. In my opinion, I think it's, in getting youth involved in local government and engaging and recruiting, speaking at possibly at the school district. Again, that's partnering with the school district, having that collaboration within our district to get the youth involved. So those are just my thoughts, just off the top of my head. Councilmember Tiedemann, you were next.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if we want language for that for right now, we can just steal the last couple words of the old one, which is encourage youth participation, local government, which I think is what the goal is here. How that works and how exactly we do it, still up for discussion. But that seems like the more specific goal.
I think that's perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we want to include the recommendation of community events, recognizing and bringing cultures together, having, events where everyone is educated on different backgrounds and cultures?
I think that's a great idea, but I'm concerned about staff availability. And I'm wondering if it should be something like support local, which could be ours, could be Solano Revenue Association, could be the Y.
Okay. So support local community events?
Something like that. I'm not even sure that belongs in the strategic plan, but we can put it in for now. I mean, in a way, it's almost a given, but
Right.
maybe they're
It's
all
one of those core council services, even though we don't have those.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could stand more specificity, which I think the mayor provided. Not just local community events, but local community events that advance a certain purpose.
Right. We're recognizing different cultures in our community, that diverse culture. So, I mean, it's not just, I just don't know what to tell. And I do know Nicole Anderson and Associates brought out a couple of things that we could possibly think about incorporating into the engagement portion of this. Did anyone have any takeaways?
Sorry, before we do that, can I suggest for item 2, the language be recognizing the breadth of cultures in Albany, something like that. Various just seems kind of milquetoast.
Yeah. Thank you. I think Vice Mayor Jordan, are you next?
No, I'm good. We can carry on.
Anyone, any comments? Anything you want to add to this section? Okay. We'll go ahead, Vice Mayor Jordan.
I think I had something down here about Nicole Anderson, that the racial equity action plan had, conduct 2 more listening sessions, which I think could fit into here. Yeah, so I'd be interested in including that.
Kind of like effective
Makes sense.
two-way communications between the city and residents. Would that work?
Yeah, let's do.
I'm wondering if we wanted make it a little broader than that, and we now have this racial equity plan. I don't want to flatly say implement it. I think there's some items there we want to look at. Continue exploration or review of the racial equity plan. I don't,
Yeah, well, I'm more in favor of putting an item here, and maybe listening sessions is too prescriptive, but being more prescriptive than just consider the plan, create mechanisms for two-way communication.
Yeah, I think that's good.
I think you've had, sorry, I'm just interjecting here, community conversations that seem to speak to a number of different topical items that may fall under this content area.
I guess I wonder if community conversation, so I'm an introvert, may not seem like that, but community conversation, is maybe for people who are more extroverted, but this could encompass, having some sort of webpage or portal, a way for people to report things that they've seen have happened, even if it's anonymous, to give us more information about what's going on. So I'm a little hesitant to just constrain it to conversations.
Well, I think that you just leave it the way it is, and then as items come up or interests come up or topics at that time, again, we're just trying to put things on paper right now to move forward with our strategic plan. So I think just adding those, and then we can elaborate at a later date if need be.
Right.
All right, with that said, I'll go ahead and let's take a break, kind of regroup. We'll take a public comment and then we'll bring it back. And if you can let Nick in, and you can give him, and Julie, it looks like we have 3 minutes for public comment. Go ahead, please.
Oh, hi. Thank you, Mayor and council members. Sorry, I was multitasking, so running back to my notes real quick here. I want to support Councilmember Jordan's or Vice Mayor Jordan's items on that have to do with economic diversity. I think economic diversity, as well as cultural diversity and racial diversity, are all very important. And I think his items, I think that they belong in that section, but please do retain them in whatever section you want to put them in. And then secondly, I would make a suggestion that under objective, so you made the Measure K and Measure D item more broad and added housing production. I would add housing production to the objective and keep the reform of Measure D and Measure K. That is very much a strategic thing that only the council can do, and only every 2 years. And what Measure D and K do is put terrible constraints on the whole city in terms of how we zone. And zoning, as everyone agrees, is key to housing production. It's strongly agreed that California is behind in housing production because of exclusionary zoning policies. And Albany is one of the worst examples because we've actually codified this in voter initiatives. And the only way to undo that is by ballot measures. So I think this is a very important and very strategic thing that the council does. And the council doing this doesn't say what the zoning should be, but only unlocks the possibility of changing the zoning. Whereas right now, most of the city is locked. So that would be my preference, that remain a Measure D and Measure K item, and you move housing production up to the objective. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next, please.
Hi, can you hear me? Because
We can. Go ahead, please.
I'm speaking through my monitor. Wasn't sure if it worked. I got really confused because of Vice Mayor Jordan's thing doesn't match the thing that the document I had. So I'm not sure where all these things go. So I'm just going to refer to them and then you'll recognize them, I hope. But ADUs was somewhere on the list, et cetera. And I wanted to know if that was going to include Airbnb or anything. If there was going to be some more control over that, I would like to see that included. And I objected for number 2. I don't know what section that was in. Mental health. There was a conflation of mental health, addiction, and homelessness, and I don't think those should all be in the same sentence. I think they should not be conflated. That if we want to address mental health, great. If we want to address, which includes addiction, which is a mental health disorder, but homelessness is not necessarily the same. And so I think I would like to see those separated. I would like to, I agree with the comment that Councilmember Tiedemann made about the police being called. I'm glad that that discussion happened about anything that's complaint driven. There's certain people that are not going to call the police because they don't have a good relationship, or the police don't have a good relationship with them. And so when things are complaint driven, which a lot of things in Albany are, it really puts people in a tenuous situation where they don't feel safe calling the police. So I think a lot of things should be taken out of the hands of the police, and we should not have things that are complaint driven. I would like to see one of the things added, and I think to me, this is kind of the whole story. I would like to see something along the lines of identify disparities created by historical racial inequities in the city, and then their connection to the current lack of diversity, economic diversity, and other kinds of diversity and economic disparities. I think that underlies everything that's going on. And if we took that as a starting place and use that as a way of addressing what we're talking about, I think that would be a really good place to start. And this sort of fits in with, again, what Councilmember Tiedemann was saying. And I also, I want to really, really discourage you from using the word empower. You can't empower someone. You can help remove the barriers to them using their own power, but everyone has power. We don't empower them. We just say, okay, we're going to try to remove the barriers. And then I was wondering about the vision and mission statement. I'm interested in, and making comments about that. And since you're not going to be talking about it today, will there be an opportunity for the public to talk about it? And I know I have 20 seconds left, so let me just make sure I got everything. Oh, blight. I don't know what that means, reader's blight. If someone could explain to me what blight means, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Is that it? All right, I'll go ahead and bring it back to the council. All right, what we'll do, we'll address the questions right before we end, so we can continue to move forward, okay? All right, we'll go ahead. We're still on. Vice Mayor Jordan, can you put your? Okay, so we're just wrapping up goal number 2. So I know on the left you have the increased economic justice enrollment. Maybe we can title something like economic diversity. When it comes to housing, those elements that you brought to the forefront, Vice Mayor, maybe we could title it as that or put it as a section, because if you move on to objective number 2, and I'm not trying to go too fast, you have under diversity, promote disaster preparedness and readiness. I don't understand how that fits in with diversity. And please help me to understand. I think that should be moved to something more of, maybe facilitate government accountability or in another section, but promote disaster preparedness. How does that incorporate engaging diversity or promoting diversity in our community?
I mean, from my perspective, this entire objective 2 and the 2 items and the 2 potential items from the previous strategic plan would just be deleted. Okay.
And maybe put that economic, so for the objective 2, maybe put the housing, that element of economic housing and diversity in that with the taxes. And okay. I think that would make a great place.
President, are you suggesting that we have nothing in our strategic plan about disaster preparedness?
No, the main item I'm suggesting is the seismic. Looking at seismic, we can only do a few things every 2 years. So the main item I saw in that domain is trying to increase seismic resilience.
But that's not the only thing we do.
It's not the only thing we do, but it's, strategically, what is the one or two or few new things we want to do over the next few years? We do all sorts of stuff around it. but what do we want to do over the next years? Just implement disaster preparedness and local hazard mitigation plans. That's way too broad. I mean, those are very, weighty documents. We're not going to implement the entirety of those over 2 years. So, I put that up here under increased public health and safety. I would say that is where we'd want to put disaster preparedness. If there's other items we don't want it down here under this goal.
Well, I think what we're doing, and that's okay, is we're changing the goal. Because I think, the goal was engage our diverse community. There's a lot of different ways to engage the community, and engaging them in disaster preparedness when this document was written was part of that. Now, if we're switching it with sort of a focus on diversity, which is okay, then you're right. Then disaster preparedness doesn't belong in that section, but I don't think we drop it.
No, and I agree. And please, if I misstated that, I meant for it to, no, we do need to keep it. It doesn't need to go there. And,
Well, so
and
should we move it up to here?
Where are you?
That's where I was going to suggest.
Yeah, that's a great place to put that.
As painful as it is to put more in our first section,
Yeah.
But I'd also point out that disaster preparedness is very represented in the core services. So I think that if we have goals about it, they should be pretty high level, or changing stuff pretty severely, because right now core services identifies a whole bunch of places where the city provides disaster preparedness effort.
Yeah, I just don't see this having the specificity that justifies it being there. I mean, we have some specific items. If there's other specific items that people want to put forward, that's fine. I mean, we have CERT in here, and we have the soft story respite ordinance. Maybe there are some other specific items that we can try to gain traction over the next 2 years.
I think, and I don't know where it is, but I think there should be something about the Albany Hills situation. I think that's
I think that's in the open space.
That's an open space.
Yeah, I think that's further
Yeah.
down.
but I think it can be cross-referenced to disaster preparedness.
I agree.
Okay.
So
But can we just focus on this broad item? Can we agree to get rid of this? Because it's too broad?
If I may interject again, this is a perfect example of something that's being administered at the department to city manager level with updates to the council. So having it in your strategic plan in a broad nature really has no additional effect, because it is an absolute high priority for a responsible city as it is.
Okay, so we can get rid of it and then just put different language in there to incorporate the Albany Hill.
Yeah. Now, this is where we were. This next item, I mean, my understanding from the session that we had with Fire Chief Boydo is that and they cited and presented the ordinance that allows the city to require property owners to mitigate fuel loading currently. So I don't know, I'm a little confused. Does more need to be done there or not? Because that's sort of in contradiction to this item. This item suggests more needs to be done, but it seems like the city already has the tools it needs to have property owners reduce fuel loading.
Well,
So I don't know where that, go ahead.
when I wrote it, I don't know where I got this. Maybe I wrote it. Evaluation and preparation of an action plan to address recent increase in diseased trees is a high priority initiative currently underway. So obviously I copied that from somewhere. It's more than defensible space, I think, is the problem.
Yeah, I think I'm sort of conflating different items. I'm focusing on, do we want to keep this item specifically that's on the screen?
And move it up. Is that what?
No, or just get rid of it, because we already have an ordinance that allows the city to say, hey, you got to get rid of all this fuel on your property.
Can I interject here?
Please go ahead.
Nicole, I saw you on mute. Did you have something to clarify here?
Thank you, Councilmember Tiedemann. Yeah, again, this is an example of a package program where anything that it is dictated for Albany Hill based on the analysis currently underway, it will absolutely include this directive as well for additional analysis and direction by the council. So it's basically inherent to the overall issues on Albany Hill. So including language on Albany Hill, tree management or fuel load management, I think is perfectly effective in housing all of the issues that go under that.
Okay, so I would be in agreement to get rid of that.
Okay.
Investigate available forms of communication with. We could possibly get rid of potential one that's grayed out
Yeah.
unless someone has an objection. I don't see why that needs to be there. And that,
I mean,
Yeah.
this was, yeah, I mean, this was also, it was only potential and actually something's been done, so.
okay.
Yeah, so then maybe.
So now you pull those items over
Yeah.
that you suggested, okay?
Right. All that. Okay.
Okay, you got them all?
I'm
Yes,
still not
I think-
happy with number 2.
I'm sorry, Member McQuay, you say you're not happy with number 2, the reform?
With item 2 there.
Okay,
Yeah, Preston, I don't think it's quite as easy as just putting something on the ballot and it's either yes or no. I mean, it could be a sizable amount of revenue that is lost to the city. There needs to be a plan to make up that revenue somehow.
No, there's, I guess I'm not communicating. So you could put a new measure on the ballot that's revenue neutral, but changes the tax structure.
How is it revenue neutral?
Because you could, so if you go by building per building square foot, for instance, which is what the cities around us are doing, rather than doing it per residence, you can calibrate that charge per square foot so that you end up with the same amount of revenue as you would have had under our current system of doing it per residence, no matter the size of the residence. It's just, it's just a mathematical formula to figure out what you have to charge per square foot to come out with the same amount of revenue. And my suspicion is that we're charging, in effect, we're charging a square foot of residential at a much higher rate than we're charging a square foot of commercial on average currently. And so it would equalize those as well. It might even be possible to lower the average tax per residence because we'd be taxing commercial and residences at equity with each other or equal to each other. So, I'm not weighing judgment on how this will work, but there are ways that we're not talking about losing revenue.
Would the council be okay with adding words to the beginning of this item that says evaluate opportunities to
Yes,
reform?
that was what I meant by suggestion.
good. And then that way you'll be able to come back with our options and we can kind of figure out what direction we want to go at that time. So that makes sense.
Exactly. Yep.
Thank you.
Nice.
Okay. All right, so now we're down to objective number 3. I would recommend we move the words continue to, possibly just mute and promote, take those 3 words out and just community inclusivity. And then let's see, so item number 1, we established that up in, hold on, scroll down some, right, Preston, please. I'm sorry, go back to the,
Go up.
yeah, please.
Okay.
That was the second.
That far?
That's good.
Okay.
So are we in agreement to remove that, or do we want to move it up to where it says maintain and increase economic diversity if there's more work needs to be done in this area?
I'm sorry, where are we?
We're on objective number 3, item number 1.
If this is already underway, if the action plan is underway and it's gonna come to us, it seems like one
We
of
could
the
just,
things that we've taken out.
okay. I think the adapt the programs and services support, I think that should stay, but then we need to know what that looks like more in a broad manner? Like, what does that look like? But I think that's something that we could evaluate and see what staff comes up with. The item number 3, that's passed, so it definitely can be deleted. Is there anything else anyone want? Go ahead, Councilmember Tiedemann.
Bad joke of shouldn't we start preparing for the 2030 census? Never mind.
That's right. And so I see you have something on the side where it says Measure BB, secure removal of the cross. I think all of those have been, we're undergoing that right now, but implement race equity survey, consider citizens task force and police recommendations. Is there somewhere you want to put that? You want to put that over? Because those are all in the works right now.
Just a suggestion.
Okay, anyone else want to?
I guess I'm confused why we would add consider
They're already-
task force. We would do that anyway. If they bring us a report, we consider it. Why would we put it? We don't say consider the economic development recommendations. So I think it's sort of redundant.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see that. I guess it seems a little different to me because it's an ad hoc committee for a specific purpose rather than a standing advisory body, but I'm fine with that either way.
Okay, we can remove it. I mean, it's not a part of our plan. Like I said, it's already in the works, and then maybe, again, we can add it if it needs to be added at a later date.
Sure.
I'm inclined
Go
to,
ahead.
I'm kind of inclined to keep it just because of its importance and its unusual nature, as Vice Mayor Jordan said. It's not a routine matter, but I can live with it either way. I don't feel strongly about it.
But I think what I'm having difficulty with is the word consider. I mean, like Councilmember McQuaid said, it's going to be brought into our to the council in a couple of months. So, maybe we can use a different framework. I don't know. I don't know what the word could be, but it's going to be recommended to us to implement or not implement some of the things. But I just think that word is consider. I don't know, but it could be me.
I struggled with that as well.
Yeah.
I went to Councilmembers Nason and Tiedemann. I think they're better at the wordsmithing, finding the right term.
I would just remove it. I mean, to be consistent,
Yeah.
everything here that is already underway and we're going to see anyway, we've been taking off. I think
Just
this
remove it,
is
okay.
one of those. If
Okay.
we want to identify anything specific we want to do about policing, but I don't think that's what we want to do in this document. So
No, not at this time.
do we mean to fuse implement racial equity survey and adapt programs into one item, or are those two separate items?
Oh,
Just to
sorry.
be
Yeah, they're
clear.
two separate. Thanks. I'll fix that. I mean, I am in favor of putting secure removal of the cross in there because it's by no means that we're going to succeed. Yeah, it's something we started, but we need to finish it. And it's a one-time item, and we don't know if we're going to succeed or not.
Yep, I agree.
Okay.
And I think it's like the most tangible symbol of inclusivity or not.
I know that we're all in agreement that we want to remove it. I just have some angst about putting in the words secure the removal.
Okay.
Depending, we don't know what the offers are going to be. So I wouldn't mind continued work to remove it or something, but I don't want to get us boxed into feeling that we have to do something without knowing how it's going to play out.
Well, I mean, to me, this is a plan. So if we fail, we fail. I mean, this isn't a commitment. This is a plan.
Right.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Because we're moving towards that direction. So I don't know if Councilmember McQuaid, secure removal, if you want to change that word, but that's the objective is for us to, get that removed, the cross removed. So.
And we are trying to go to stronger language instead of saying
Right.
consider developing
secure.
a plan to, to seek. I like this. I would leave it.
Okay. All right, now we're to, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Vice Mayor Jordan. You have one more thing now?
Oh, no.
Okay.
This, we'll just leave that off.
Okay.
Yeah.
So objective 4 is promote health and wellness. Again, that's in how does that, what we have on the table right now, how can we incorporate or engage diverse communities with promoting health and wellness? And I know we have this measure and we're working on it. I mean, does it need to stay because it comes to us every year? I don't think it does, but again, I'm open to hear other options.
It's in the law that we have that study session, isn't it? So
Yes.
I don't know why
Is
we
that correct?
do it here.
Okay.
Yeah, we do it every year.
That's right. You're required to have that study session, so it's redundant.
Yeah. So delete?
Yes.
Okay. There we go.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So now we're on, if time, looks like if we can get this done within the next 15 to 30 minutes, if possible, it'd be great. We can go to goal number, oh, I'm sorry. Where are we? Maintain and improve parks and open space. We're at goal number 3.
Can I ask a procedural question?
Uh-huh.
Or a point of parliamentary inquiry? Do we have a hard stop tonight with the mayor and vice mayor's meetings? And when is that?
When is that? My hard stop would have to be at 4:30.
Oh, mine's at 5.
Okay. If that's the case, I do think we have another thing on our agenda that
Oh, that's right. We do.
may want to get to. So we may
Thank
want
you.
to stop
Thank
at
you
this
for
nice
reminding
stopping point and then go do that.
Absolutely. So I thank you so much, Councilmember Tiedemann. I thought we were just working on this, but yeah, we do. So we'll go ahead and stop. We're 2 goals away. I think we'll be able to get that done in a study session, possibly next week, if possible. But again, I know our agenda is pretty packed, but I think we could get it done because we're moving fairly quick here. We'll go to the next item.
Mayor, just as a point of order, I guess, would it be wise to take public comment on that last part of the?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see if any.
I don't know if we have any, but.
No, we don't. Do we have public comment? Anyone? All right.
Okay, thank you.
And Mayor, just to clarify, this is tentatively scheduled for July 19th anyway, so we'll just continue the discussion.
Okay, very well.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so let's go to the next item. Pull up my agenda here. Sorry. Move some stuff around. All right, we're at item number 3, unfinished business. Let's go ahead with the staff report.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council members. Jeff Bond, the Community Development Director. I'll give you a brief report and then be happy to answer your questions. This agenda item is intended to give you an opportunity to further discuss the UC Berkeley campus planning initiatives, particularly related to the proposed student housing development project at Albany Village. At your July 6th meeting last week, the City Council designated Mayor Gary to provide public comment at the upcoming Regents meeting next week, where the University Village project will be on their agenda. In addition, the City Council directed staff to attempt to arrange follow-up meetings with the university to discuss the project. Following your meeting, we have been able to arrange for 3 different meetings to occur. The first was between campus staff and city staff, city manager and myself. The second was with the subcommittee of Councilmember Nason and Councilmember Tiedemann, which occurred yesterday. And this morning, Vice Mayor Jordan had opportunity to discuss in particular transportation aspects of the project. This agenda item this afternoon gives you an opportunity to report in on all those various meetings and to reach a consensus on how you want to approach addressing the city's interests with this project. A couple of other quick things. I should report that earlier today, an announcement was made that the Berkeley campus has reached an agreement with the city of Berkeley related to campus development in Berkeley. Although the actual agreement has not been released, the announcement stated that basically in exchange for dropping 2 existing CEQA lawsuits and a potential agreeing not to challenge the long-range development plan, which is in its final stages of preparation. The campus has agreed to a payment of over 16 years of a total of $82 million. Like I said, the agreement itself has not been released, and so I don't have anything more on the details of that. The original staff recommendation was for the city to address the Board of Regents next week. We know that the opportunity to address the board would be limited to just a minute or two under the best of circumstances. And it's obviously uncertain how the Board of Regents would react to the presentation, if at all. In lieu of participation in the Regents meeting, campus staff have offered to arrange for city leadership to meet with senior leadership on the campus to discuss the project in Albany at University Village. And we would recommend that the City Council follow up on that offer of a commitment, and which we believe would be more productive ultimately than a brief presentation to the Board of Regents. I'll stop right there, giving consideration of the time available to you, and be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you so much, Jeff. So I'll go ahead and open up to the City Council. I guess we'll start with Councilmember Nason.
Yeah, just so to put kind of a frame on this, we were working in 2019, we were working through the 2x2 towards making a request of the university that they consider some funding to Albany in light of the costs to Albany of providing services of various kinds and the costs to the school district. But that did not, that kind of ended in 2019 and did not go forward. At this time, they have indicated a willingness to continue discussion in that direction. And I would like us as a council to take them up on it. Although I think that we're not really in a position or have an interest to file lawsuits against UC, as Berkeley has done very profitably, obviously, but to appeal to their to the more collaborative approach that has prevailed over the years between the university and Albany, and see if there might be some willingness to provide some assistance, and particularly in light of the loss of the help with the crossing guards, see if there are things that we can work on together. So I think that the idea would be that we work to, that the council develop an ask and discuss that with representatives of the university, try to make it something that would be appealing and helpful to the university as well as to the city, and try to bring that to their leadership. I see that you have a hand up, Vice Mayor Jordan. Should I go on to talk about other issues first, or did you have something specifically on the kind of financial side? You're muted.
What I wanted to jump in with is my understanding we only have 6 minutes. So
That's right.
I wanted
So
to
thank you.
Oh dear.
cut to the chase here, which is
Maybe we should put this on Monday's agenda.
right. But so I think cutting to the chase and thanking staff, particularly Director Bond, for pointing out talking to the regents as an opportunity to push things along, and that seems to be having some success, I would say, and motivating the system. Maybe we take the approach that we don't necessarily need to talk to the regents if we get meetings with all the vice chancellors that are relevant to this scheduled ahead of time. And so that's a marker and a direction that we can provide staff when we see where things are at this coming Monday. Because we don't have time right now to discuss all the details of what everybody's heard. You know, I think we need an overarching approach. Are we going to talk to the regents? Are we not going to talk to the regents? Are there conditions under which we wouldn't talk to the regents? UC staff seems to desire us not making a statement to the regents, you know, so we have a window of opportunity here. Apparently some leverage. Again, credit to staff for letting us know we had that leverage. So what does our stance want to be on, you know, how are we going to use that? Are we going to stand down if they actually bring their senior leadership to the table in a meaningful way?
I think the first step would be figuring out what we want from them, what we feel is just and acceptable, that would also have some appeal to them as a positive and constructive partnership.
The simple answer to that is money. To really boil it down, I mean, unclear, you know, what the best use for that, what the best way to make that partnership happen is, but that's essentially the ask, and figuring out exactly what that is we could do later. But I think Vice Mayor Jordan has a good point of, you know, if we can get a meeting scheduled, then I don't think there's a need to publicly comment to the regents, especially as I think that will be lower impact than a real substantive meeting would be.
So what we should do is that, let's see if we can get a meeting. I will not present myself at the Regents Board. We can, I guess, go and attend. And I think Vice Mayor Jordan stated last meeting that anyone could speak, you know, at this meeting. But if we want to make sure that our voice is being heard, I think we need to come as a collaborative into a meeting with them and just discuss what we would like to see. And I think that discussion doesn't need to happen now until we figure out exactly what we want from them. Then once we've figured that out, let's go back and bring it to the table. These are our asks. Here's what we want. And then let's have that conversation. And I think that's the direction we should go. If you're all in agreement.
So my suggestion is that the plan is that you will talk to the regents unless we get these meetings that we want. Because, you know what, that's our leverage. They're not necessarily going to meet with us without that leverage, and that's the leverage we have right now.
So you're saying if I don't go speak to them, they're not going to agree to meet with us? Is that what you're stating?
No, what I'm saying is we don't make a commitment to whether you're going to speak or not at this time. We put the decision off until Monday, pending on whether the vice chancellors actually, you know, commit to a time and to meeting.
Councilmember McQuaid?
I'm sorry, I'm a little confused, and maybe either Vice Mayor or Jeff, you could help me. I'm not really sure the impact of going to speak to the regents is, and why the vice chancellors would care one way or the other. I don't think it's I don't get where the leverage is. So maybe you could explain that piece.
You know, I think that they would like to have, you know, they have a lot of business to take care of before the Board of Regents, and it's not a very good forum to work out details. And, you know, the board could go in a direction that doesn't work for them, and that then they have to kind of backpedal. They meet only once every 2 months. It's a much more cumbersome decision-making process. So I think they probably feel like there is potential for an outcome that is difficult for them, and you know, that they can hopefully address our needs a little bit better through a dialogue rather than a kind of a random meeting, random comment that might come out of the meeting.
I'll chime in. I think what Director Bond just announced about the settlement agreement with Berkeley, that's going to be on the Regents' agenda. So my sense is that staff wants to avoid the visual of, well, we solved the problem with this one city, but now we got another city that we haven't managed the relationship showing up on our doorstep. That's not a good look all around for those who are supposed to be managing those relationships. So I think that's another political aspect of what's going on.
If I could chime in here,
Go ahead.
I think from the conversation that we had in the subcommittee, I don't want to get too far into it considering time, but I think there's every reason to believe that a meeting will happen. You know, whether that meeting leads to us actually getting anything, that's a whole nother matter. You know, I have ample things to say about the ability of the UC to deliver on promises and fulfill things to students and everything like that. I could talk for hours about that, but I won't. But I think a meeting will happen. I think the staff have and the chancellor's office staff especially have been nothing but accommodating in that respect, and I think they generally want to see a meeting happen there. It's just, you know, where that then goes.
Exactly. And there again, I think I'll piggyback on Councilmember Tiedemann. They have been open. I'm sure Councilmember McQuaid and Councilmember Nixon has experience with them. I think they will agree to meet with us with our demands. I mean, and again, don't get me wrong. If you want me to go and present, you know, and state something, I have no problem with doing that. But I think let's think wise with our time management. Like, if we go there, what's going to be the outcome? We've stated a certain things, okay, and they can say yes or no. But if we strategically move in the direction where we have our ass together and come and have a conversation and develop the partnership stronger in the city, I think that's going to be more beneficial. But again, if you want me to go, I will go. Put a script together. We'll work it out. I'm open to either way.
Yeah, I'm sort of with Councilmember Tiedemann that I don't have that kind of faith in a system the size of UC to be that responsive. And this is a point of leverage to talk to the regents. So I'm circumspect about giving that up. I mean, a lot of the groundbreaking things I've gotten done is by taking every opportunity to engage with those in power that comes along and not skipping any of them. So the fact that we'll have a meeting set up is saying, okay, that's good enough, we'll stand down, is a risk, because they can just show up and listen to us and be like, okay, that's nice, thank you, and then nothing happens.
And again, the meeting that Councilmember Tiedemann and I had regarding the rent increase, it wasn't like that. It was very conversational, right? We listened to, you know, the UC and they gave us their approach, what they're dealing with in their budget. And then Councilmember Tiedemann and I, we were able to, you know, present an approach on behalf of the students. So there again, if you want to take a vote, we can do a vote to see if you want me to go ahead and present something. Again, I have no problem with that, or how we want to go. So if we have time, if we're all in agreement, we can vote.
Well, I don't think we need to decide tonight. I mean, I think the general approach was to frame it. If we get those meetings secured, does that mean, and we can decide it on Monday, that you don't go?
And you know, one thing that plays into that, whether to go to the regents or not, is what is our ask? You know,
right.
we've talked in the past about something on that is not specifically tied to the public public services that we offer, but that is, so it's not reimbursement for that, but is more in the form of a part of the chancellor's philanthropic budget, which is a big part of what Berkeley gets, if I understand it correctly. And that we would be making what is essentially a philanthropic ask, but in the context that, hey, we do spend quite a bit of money for such a tiny town on providing services. So there's a moral justification for them to look at Albany as a worthy recipient of some of those types of funds to get things done that are beneficial to both parties.
So
I can see there's a public comment.
hold on one sec,
Okay.
Vice Mayor Jordan and City Manager. I just want to ask this: do we have room on the agenda to put this? Their agenda is packed, so. And if we do, it's just a matter of yes or no, so we can move forward, because we can't spend much time on this.
Sure.
Yes or no.
And we can move the waterfront item. There's no urgency on that. That can go in September.
Sure.
Okay.
My issue is the agenda is going out today, and certainly we can amend things later, as you well know. But in terms of preparing a staff report or anything of substance, we just don't have the time. So it would be a very basic report that said this is continuation of the discussion item, and it's going to be a little bit muddy. So ideally, we'd get some clear direction this evening, but if you're just not there, we can try and sort out what that looks like. It may be a bit lacking.
Let's put it on as continuation of this discussion. And you can put over the waterfront to September. And we'll fit it in.
I was going to suggest after public comment that we vote. Because
I would agree. Let's
I'm
not
ready to
drag-
decide.
I agree. Let's not drag this on. Let's make the decision. We're here. I'm late for my meeting, but we'll go ahead and keep it going. Let's go ahead and get public comment. Go ahead, please. And you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I don't think I'll need 2 minutes. I just want to echo what Vice Mayor Jordan was saying about speaking, publicly speaking in front of the regents. It can't be overstated the value of doing that, because you can do that and you can have the meetings. But once you make that public statement, you are on notice that Albany has some things that they would like to talk about, and the UC is much less likely to backpedal on things like that. So I urge you to do both. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for your comment. Next, please.
Hey Council, this is Effie from the Giltrap Farm. Thanks again for your attention on this. I also find myself agreeing with the Vice Mayor in saying that you might want to hold off on your options. That said, I would greatly appreciate the opportunity to talk with council members about mutually beneficial asks that we could make. We are also in dialogue with campus administrators about what it is that we're trying to work to do to make sure that the monarch habitat is protected. We've been encouraged to see further mitigation and studying happening. But we just want to understand more about what the city is looking to do in terms of long-term care for the creek. The water table there is obviously, since we farm, is really an essential thing to care for, and trying to understand more about catchment options and wise water use there. And also, working together, we're really interested in working together more with the school systems of Albany, with the city, in making the farm and the creek zone an area that is open and used by more members of Albany. We do have a lot of great participation from the village. So yeah, just wanting to work together on that and hoping that perhaps we can have some meetings before the Regents meeting as well to inform what we're doing.
Thank you so much.
So I can make a motion. I'll move to continue this item Monday for further discussion.
Seconded.
And can I get a vote, please? I'm sorry.
Mayor Gary,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jordan,
Yes.
Councilmember McQuay,
No,
Councilmember Nason,
Yes.
Councilmember Tiedemann.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. With that said, we'll go ahead and end our meeting, and we'll see you on Monday. Meeting adjourned. Have a good evening.
thank you.
Thanks all.